Okay, so we often get asked what it is that we test people before they start membership here at the gym. Now, the main comments we get from people who haven't trained here is that they don't want to start training here because they know that we're going to test them and that the test is going to be difficult. For them, the problem is that they fear things like being judged or getting negative feedback, or they don't think they need to establish a baseline for their performance, or things like their goals are not our goals. It can be a very intimidating experience for people because it can make people feel inadequate. Thing is, we're not actually testing fitness, we're testing general physical preparedness. Part of that is testing your levels of strength and cardiovascular endurance and muscular endurance, and seeing how you move, including your gait, hinge, squat, push, pull, rotation, and counter rotation. But while the test is physical in nature, we're actually testing your mental game. So by presenting yourself at the gym for the first session is actually passing the first test. That is, knowing that you're going to get tested and rocking up anyway is actually a good sign. Mentally, the GAC test is a problem to test your problem-solving skills, innate mental toughness, and intrinsic motivation. Committing yourself to learn and understanding your strengths and limits, working within your capabilities and the parameters of the test to get the best possible result, and persevering through setbacks is all part of this process. This speaks volumes about who you are and what you're prepared to do to achieve excellence. So seeing you do all this is really what we're testing. We also see the initiation as a way to walk you through the process of stress inoculation training. And I'll talk about this in other videos. So by using a gym-based context, we are testing a broad range of movements and capacities which mimic high consequence activities. But these capabilities are really a result of the necessity of our ancestors to survive and thrive. On a very basic and primal level, what has made us unique as a species is our ability to run, swim, carry, climb, and fight. These skills, along with our ability to communicate effectively, think critically, and create imaginatively, have made us the dominant species on the planet and the apex predators. Our ancestors have endured the hardest conditions we could possibly imagine and yet survived and thrived to the point that we enjoy the modern amenities and a safe and very comfortable society. By using our physicality with our mentality, we're staying in touch with those unique capabilities and capacities that our ancestors displayed. Capabilities that our comfortable society rarely compels us to call upon. So by pushing ourselves through discomfort, we're staying in reach with what makes us powerful. The harder we train and the more we challenge ourselves, the more we can grasp that true potential. What most people don't realize is that they are currently operating at a level which is not even a tenth of that potential. If there's anything we haven't achieved in our own lives, it's because we haven't utilized our full potential, because we haven't tapped it. To access our true power and the truest extent of our capabilities, we need to push ourselves into territories where we've never been before, where we are uncomfortable, and where we question our ability to succeed. Now, testing does this for us. So we must push ourselves to our perceived limits to realize that they're not where we thought they were. We would find out that we are far more capable than we thought we were. And it was just some baseless bias that kept us in a box. And usually that bias is the result of our own egos, laziness, or fear. None of those three traits serve us. Now, we know our gym and our programming is not for everyone, but we also know that there are those out there who intuitively understand how pushing yourself profoundly serves you. They're picking up what we're putting down. Testing works as a mechanism to weed out those who don't get this, where their reasons for training aren't aligned with ours. So it makes our lives easier because we can focus on those who get the importance of standards and the relentless pursuit of excellence. The relentless pursuit of excellence is a process of continuous improvement in everything we do. Excellence is not mastery in only one domain. It's the ability to meaningfully contribute in as many domains as possible. If you're truly intent on excellence, then you must establish the terms of reference and the standards that you can measure excellence by. So if you're going to claim excellence, then you need to be able to back up your claims with reason, logic, and data. Because for you to be able to assess if there's been any progress in your life, you must be able to measure where you started from and then match those results to the heuristic benchmarks which state what excellence is. So our GAC standards test is a means for us to be able to assess where you're at when you walk into the gym, and then you can hold us accountable to our programming and to our processes based on your progress. One of our goals was to design a system where we could measure real progress because we understand the importance in our previous jobs as warfighters, because in such high consequence environments, it was critically important to have standards that gave us the realistic understanding of our ability to dominate in our domain, i.e. war. We've been reviewing our program annually since we opened. Now, these reviews have been informed by the feedback from our clients, their GAC test results, and their success in their chosen craft, trade, sport, or profession. We take this feedback very seriously because we are prepared for you to hold us accountable to our programming and all our other services. This is what drives our pursuit of excellence. The willingness to be held accountable and doing everything it takes to meet any challenge that comes at us as a result of putting our standards out there is critical for driving a culture of excellence. We know it's our responsibility to see you achieve your goals. Now, there's many facilities around the world who state this, but don't have the transparent mechanisms in place to be held accountable. In fact, they may not even have a structured program. A lot of them make up the program on the day based on how they feel or what they want to train that day. We can't work like that. We are operating in the best interests of our clients, which means that it's about you and your performance and your probability of success. It starts with being able to measure your progress from where you started to where you need to go. Now, a lot of people find this intimidating. The fact that you must test when you come here, people don't initiate contact with us because of this, but we can't do it any other way. Because if we're operating in the best interests of our client, then you must be able to assess our programming based on its merits. So if we put it out there, we ask you to do it, we've got to be able to stand behind our program and our services. If you don't see the progress that we say you will achieve, then you can hold us to that. So it's in our best interest to ensure that you achieve your goals, which means that we put so much into our programming and so much testing and design and feedback into our programming to ensure that this is the best product we can offer. There's no other way to do it. If we want to achieve a higher level for all our clients, then we must do it this way. Now, the other thing about testing is that if you are aiming to achieve something that is truly worthy, but you find it intimidating and you don't come in and test, then you're probably not ready for what it is that you said you wanted to do. I'll give you an example. If you want to do a special forces selection course, you need to know hard and fast data about where you are because you need to know how to get to where you need to be based on what the standards are for that selection course. If we don't test you first up, then we don't know where to start you from. We don't know your strengths and where your weaknesses are. And any client not prepared to put themselves under examination like that does not really understand the world that they're going into, i.e. the Special Forces world. Because Special Forces selection is a test. It's a test which initially goes over 3 weeks, and then for another 12 to 18 months of the reinforcement cycle after that, you are continually tested. So our intent is to ensure that you get used to being tested from the day you walk into the gym. Part of this is to inoculate you against the stresses of that test, so that you achieve your potential on that course. If you are not prepared to get tested, if you're not prepared to be put under the microscope, it's usually based on fear, the fear of the assault on your ego. For you to be given a metric in terms of where you are on the fitness scale, the general physical preparedness scale, and on the selection scale, for some people, it's too intimidating. But if you're intent on passing a selection course, you need to understand that there are certain black and white metrics that you need to hit. If you don't know where you are relative to those metrics, then you aren't serious about training for selection. So you aren't being realistic about the selection course that you're proposing to undertake. It's not about ego or pride. It's about being a professional. You must welcome assessment. You must seek the opportunity to be tested. You must get comfortable with people assessing you, because for you to get selected, you must be accustomed to that. You must understand that for you to know the standards and have a realistic chance of hitting those standards, you must know where you are right now. You must have a carefully planned and realistic program in terms of how to achieve the standards based on where you are right now. That's why we test. That's why it's important that we test regularly. The other thing about testing, especially for our gym membership, is that it maintains a standard in the gym so that people who meet that standard can continue to push themselves and each other. It's about the practicalities of having limited space and equipment, so we need to cater to meet the needs of the people at that certain standard. If we allow anyone in this space that slows our group down, then we as coaches are not operating the best interests of our members and their pursuit of excellence. There must be a standard to maintain so that people at that standard can push even further, can push each other even more. If we slow them down or hamper them in any way, we're not operating in their best interests. Now, people who come here get that. If they don't get that, they don't come here. So putting out a GAC standards test is a way for us to manage our people and to manage our culture. It immediately weeds out people who are not conducive to that pursuit or that culture, because the culture of excellence is the sum of its people. If you are the sum of the people that you surround yourself with, then make sure you're surrounded by good people. Culture is the number one thing that ensures that we get the best outcomes possible for any group. If we have a culture of excellence, of continuous improvement, or the continuous pursuit of excellence, then we are more likely to achieve excellence. It's the reason why you have the friends you have. They get you, they support you, or they motivate you to be better. If we have any ingredient or any input into that process which makes us less viable to achieve that level of excellence, then we have to weed it out. A sustainable culture is made of good people who perpetuate this culture, and the culture is reinforced by the people in the culture. They enforce the standards they set within that culture, because without enforcement or having the courage to enforce it, then it will degrade until it ceases to exist. That's why we are very careful to ensure that the people who come here are prepared to be tested and welcome the test at any time, because they understand that in life we're often tested. In fact, the reality is that most of the time we don't get to choose when we get tested. Usually it's the most inconvenient time for us. It's not on the ground of our choosing, and it's not for a duration or time span that suits us. But at the end of the day, we've got to suck it up and we've got to get on with it and fight on. So we take great care to cultivate a culture that embeds that understanding, that embeds that intent. And for us to perpetuate that, we must establish the standards, test the standards, and enforce the standards, because a culture of excellence dictates that. So for anyone seeking to achieve anything that they consider worthy or difficult but profoundly important, then you should embrace the opportunity to test yourself at every opportunity. The more you inoculate yourself to the stress of being tested, then the more prepared you are for any test. Testing also gives you something to strive for. It can give you purpose. If your goal is to be prepared for anything and to be able to meaningfully contribute in any environment, then it will give you a long-term purpose. But best of all, testing brings you closer to realizing your true potential. And the more you welcome that challenge, the more you realize the extent of your real potential.